Welcome to the Domain of Anguish Speed Clear MLK guide, your ultimate guide for the Monk Lord Killer Mesmer Spiker. I will first talk about the MLK build and attributes, followed by description of armor and equipment. We'll then specifically touch upon MLK's special job involving the glitch spot in Veil. Finally, I will provide a commentary on a recent subcon run from the perspective of an MLK. The MLK is a key spike in the DOA team, and if used correctly can top 200,000 damage per run and carry important spikes. In terms of build, you first of all have Arcane Echo, which is used to copy your other spiking skills, especially Energy Surge for key spikes, such as 6-0 in Veil and Fury Spike in Foundry. Energy Surge is your main spike skill that you should cast on a central target once the ball is ready, which will commonly be a caster, for example Dabi, Kaya or Su in the city. A natural signet should follow E-Surge to assist with the spike. It is very cheap on energy due to being a signet and does damage to the target and at all adjacent foes if the target is hexed or enchanted. Westeros Demise is a useful skill for the glitch spot spike in Veil and pre-damaging back foes on 360 waves. You then have Mistrust, which is a single target damage hex that blocks the next spell but deals damage to both the target and all adjacent foes. It is crucial skill for Foundry to block Chillblains from Despairs and Mirror of Disenchantment from the Dream Riders, who can remove Protective Bond from the entire team and lead to a wipe of the team. It can also be precasted on foes that cast skill. We then have Empathy, which is a single target skill that is helpful for killing the Monk Lord and Dervish Lord. In addition, you should precast Empathy on the Woos and Runes in the first and second rooms in Foundry. Finally, you can use Empathy on the cleanups, especially if the target has full health, for example in Veil and Gloom on Fiends, Spirits and Sanities. We then have Backfire, which is another single target skill that deals damage to the target foe whenever it casts a spell. It is used to kill the Monk Lord, as well as Zeus on the city wall. You should also cast Backfire on the keys in the Foundry to help them to be killed quicker. And finally, we have Ebon Escape, which is useful to increase the speed of runs because it enables you to jump to the other team members as well as to and from ledges on the way to Gloom. It is also useful to give minor healing to the snakes in Foundry and other team members while you are running from spot to spot. In terms of attributes, you can see that before popping Pecons, you will have 16 Domination Magic and 15 Fast Casting. The impact of Pecons is evident when you look at the attributes. Your Domination Magic and Fast Casting will jump to 20 and 19 respectively. We now look closer at armor and equipment. Other than to have the bombastic skins and armor, you need to ensure that they actually do the job required. First of all, you will need a Domination Magic headpiece with a superior Domination Magic rune, which helps to achieve maximum spiking capacity. You then have a superior fast casting rune to increase the casting ability of your Mesmer. You also need to have a superior Vigor rune to increase your health and counteract the health lost due to the use of 2 superior runes. Finally, Radiant Insignias and 2 attunement runes assist with your energy management. In addition, you might want to carry a high health set with Survivor Insignias and Vitae runes, which is helpful for the running in the final room of Foundry as MLK. In terms of equipment, you will need, most importantly, a 40-40 Domination Magic set for general spikes. You will also need a high energy set with plus 15 energy on each of your setter and offhand. This is needed for your energy management to ensure that you can finish key spikes such as the 6-0 in Veil and Earth's Pop after the darknesses die in Gloom. It is also helpful while you are working on the Zeus on the city wall and in Foundry to the extent that you run out of energy, especially in the second and third rooms. In addition, you should have a shield set for the darknesses spike in Gloom in order to decrease the chance of diversion being casted on you. This is also referred to quite often as the low energy set. You can also use your shield set for running and fighting in Veil and Gloom. Finally, you should take a flat bow or longbow so you are able to pull something if you need to. For example, on the Dervish Lord hill, if the IEU is new and fails to pull the Lord when he needs to, you will pull the Lord. In terms of pecons, you should pop birthday cupcakes, candy corn, golden eggs, candy apples, pumpkin pie, lunas, and war supplies. The cumulative effect of these pecons improves your spiking capability by approximately 50% and should never be underestimated. MLK should also have some resurrection scrolls in case any of the Mesmers die on a spike and need a fast res. Personal morale boost or death penalty removal such as pumpkin cookies or wintergreen candies are good, but you should never use a party-wide morale boost in DOA because this may mess up Trench Tank if he needs to use a power stone at Cave or on the Dervish Hill. Next we have summoning stones, which are helpful for breaking aggro, for example Mysterious Possession, but you should also have a few Tengu flares and Ghastly stones in case you need to pop them to help with the spikes. Finally, I always carry some power stones in case the tanks ask for one and for whatever reason are not carrying any, and tut tut to those tanks. Now we talk about glitch spot. This stands for a spot used to glitch mobs to avoid them attacking the MLK while he spikes the groups from the Monk Lord Trench and the Gloom Trench. It is located behind the left claw on the hill adjacent to the Monk Lord Trench. As you can see, MLK stands in the glitch spot to solo spike the mobs that pop once both the Gloom and the Monk Lord trenches are popped. The reason this works is because the game mechanics mean that the claw actually stands out at approximately 90 degrees angle that blocks mobs from running to the MLK. If the MLK picks his spot correctly, then he can start applying Westeros Demise on each mob by pressing tab and Westeros on each mob. Golems will be casting their Grant's Fingers that deal cold damage, and Hungers will cast Grant's Balance on the MLK once their health drops to approximately 50% health. Please ensure that you do not start your spike while you are low on health or slow on your glitch spot spike, because this might result in death from the above foes skills. MLK can easily kill the mobs by applying Westeros Demise on the foes, and once they are dead, he will run inside the Monk Lord Trench to solo spike the Monk Lord with the trench tank. Now let's observe a recent subcon run that we did from a perspective of an MLK. Start our recorded run in the city of Torc'qua. Upon entry, you want to make sure that all of your pecons are popped, and please check that you equip your 40/40 domination magic set. You should grab the quest from the NPC on the left and blessing on the right to build your Lightbringer title. Hug the right wall and run with the team until you get in a position for placing your backfire on the first Sioux on the city wall. Once the ball is ready, turn around and spike the first ball with your energy surge and unnatural signet. Avoid spiking too early on each ball in order to avoid scatter of the foes. You must be careful with your energy management in the city because repressive energy costs -2 energy per each cast of a skill or hit of a weapon, and therefore you should always avoid hitting anything with your weapon. After the spike, main tank will be making the big ball on the left side, and you need to continue to work on the Sioux on the city wall by putting backfire and a natural signet on each Sioux. Finish the first Sioux if it is still alive, and then cast backfire on the second Sioux, and wait until the backfire is recharged. After that, you backfire the third Sioux. Tap back to the second Sioux and finish it with a natural signet. If you are standing in QZ, your natural signet will recharge in time for the next Sioux. Please ensure that Sioux around the city gate are dead in order for the seeder to be able to put the EOE in the QZ in time for the second ball spike. If you are suffering from the lack of energy, ask the emo to drop your prod bond for you to be UA'd by the seeder to recover your full energy. If any of the mangs remain alive, then help the other mesmers with finishing them before getting ready for the second ball spike. Then you turn around and spike the second ball once the main tank DCs into the ball and everything is settled. After the spike, run with the other mesmers through the city gate and stand in the next spot for the first ball spike inside the city. Pay attention to your compass and avoid aggroing the patrol on the left side, which might be too close. Preselect one of the casters, notably Kaya, Dabi or Sioux, and your first skill on the spike is Mistrust, followed by Energy Surge and a Natural Signet. This is a good opportunity to briefly touch on different ranges. First of all, you have the aggro range. If you aggro any enemies with your aggro bubble, you will receive aggro of that foe, as well as any adjacent foes. As casters, you have the casting range, which is slightly larger than the aggro range, and therefore on the first inside ball spike, you will see that we are standing in a casting range. If you don't, then when you press your skills, then you will have to run around the hill and therefore fail the spike. Once the first inside ball is dead, move to the second inside ball being prepared by the trench tank and precast your echo. Your first skill on the spike is E-Search, followed by second E-Search and a natural signet. If there are any foes remaining, then help to kill them, especially by putting empathy on any melee enemies and mistrust on any casters. Give a host target to the trench tank through the city wall. Then E to the trench tank and run into Veil for the glitch spot spike on the first wave on 360. On the way to Veil, you will run past the Shadow Army patrol, which goes up and down the map. Normally this will be the right side of that patrol, And while you run past them, you can curse them for those crappy spawns in the Fissure of Woe. Then you E the NPC and take the quest. Trench Tank will have recall on you, and you need to ensure that you keep him in your compass range to avoid recalling him out on this pool. Once the Trench Tank pulls all 3 pups of hungers away, you need to stand in a glitch spot and spike this wave by applying Westeros Demise on each foe by pressing Tab and then Westeros. Keep reapplying Westeros Demise until all of the hungers are dead, and if any of the hungers are left alive, then finish them by applying a natural signet and E-Surge. After the spike is done, the main team will have arrived and Emo will be ready to tank the second wave of hungers and brutes on 360. However, if there are any issues with the Jador spike, then you and the Trench Tank can also do the second wave of 360 by spiking them in a glitch spot in the same way as for wave 1. If all goes to plan, then you want to stand in a little crevice behind the Emo on wave 2 and put Westeros Demise on the back mobs to pre-damage them for the spike. Concentrate on the main ball by spiking with your E-Surge and Natural Signet and Westeros Demise. You should also copy your E-Surge with the Arcane Echo for these waves whenever you can. Wave 3 will not contain any hungers, but wave 4 will have some hungers, and you might want to pre-cast Mistrust on one of them before you cast your E-Surge and a Natural Signet on the ball. For wave 5, you want to stand in the little crevice again behind the Emo to place your Westeros Demise on the back mobs to pre-damage them again. Once the last wave on 360 is dead, Trench Tank will place recall on you and you split to the Dervish Hill on the left side with the Trench Tank and IEU. You must ensure to keep the Trench Tank in your compass range to avoid recalling him out on this ball, but at the same time you want to be far enough away to avoid catching the aggro when Trench Tank recalls out on you. Be aware of the chain aggro or of the Torment Claw that spawns along the right side of Dervish Hill, and wait for all of the other mobs to be clear of that claw before you aggro it. IU will pull the Dervish Lord, and you should precast Backfire and Empathy on him and spike with your E-Surge and a Natural Signet. Dervish Lord will be casting some skills, and therefore Backfire will start damaging him while he running. E the Trench Tank to give him some heals for the next pull, and he will then place recall on you to pull away the mobs out of your way, and you will then run down from the Dervish Hill. Once you're clear, you should stand in the aggro range on the front pop of the Gloom Trench that spawns once the Trench Tank pops the Gloom Trench. Aggro that group either by standing in the aggro circle or ball them and run to the glitch spot. for the trench tank to bring the back group from the Gloom trench, and for the 2 pop-ups from the Monk Lord trench to settle on you in a glitch pod before you start spiking them. You spike all of these pop-ups in the same way as you've done for wave 1 by pressing tab and putting Westeros on each of the mobs. Pay attention to the foes you are targeting and avoid selecting one of the tormentors behind you, because this might cause you to run out from the glitch spot. Once these groups are dead, run into the Monk Lord trench and hug the left wall. If the Dervish Hill group is too close on the left, you must always aggro that side instead of casters on the right side. Keep running along the wall and that group will break. If needed, give recall target to the trench tank to help with the Monk Lord pull, and be far enough for the tank to recall out to break aggro. Wait for the trench tank to pull the Monk Lord into the trench, and wait for the Monk Lord to stop before you start your spike. This will avoid the Monk Lord targeting you and killing you with his smite skills. After the Monk Lord is pulled, put Westeros Demise on him and wait for him to use his smite hack. The main way he dies is with empathy and backfire, so these need to be maintained in him. But note that he has hex removal, therefore to counteract this, keep reapplying Westeros Demise, and then after he uses his smite hex, reapply your backfire and empathy again. If the pop-up on the Dervish Lord Hill is too close, then you give a recall target to the trench tank, who will pull away 2 tormentors on the right side of the Monk Lord trench, and then you run to the 6-0. If you are slow, then the Emo and Monk will be killing your tendril, and you can run to the top of the hill adjacent to the Monk Lord trench to prepare for the 6-0 spike. However, if you are sufficiently quick, then you kill your tendril. The best way to kill it is by casting your E-Surge and a natural signet, and then reapplying Westeros Demise for maximum damage. This way you will keep your Arcane Echo for your double E-Surge on the 6-0 spike, which needs to go as cleanly as possible. You want to wait to kill your tendril until the 2 top tendrils on the right side are killed by the TK. This is because you want the group to spawn only when the main tank starts to make the pull on the right side and avoid getting him stuck. Wait for all mobs to settle on Emo before you spike, and then hit them with your double E-Surge and natural signet and Westeros Demise. Make sure that you target the right side of the ball even if the ball is too large. And once the main ball is dead, you can help TK with any off damage if anything remains alive after the spike. And that's it, 6-0 is done and Dreadspawn more is no more. Pick your chest and run with the team into Gloom via the Gloom trench. Give the main tank space to jump into the Gloom Trench patrol and spike it. Once the spike is done, one of the team members will ping out for the trench tank to activate the Gloom Cave waves. We are now in the foggy Ravenheart Gloom, where the Order of Whispers are hopelessly failing to deal with the forces of Malix the Undying. Once you come out from the Gloom Trench, if you are the first one there, then please run to the NPCs at entrance to Gloom and activate the fighting with the Tormentors. After this is done, E up to the ledge to one of their teammates. Normally this will be a tank who will use his host to get up to the ledge, and by this point the trench tank would have already activated to the rescue quest. This spawns 12 waves of enemies run into the cave to obliterate the warden and his order of whispers trapped behind enemy lines. While the trench tank preps the cave ball, the team runs to the corner northwest of the cave to be ready to catch waves 4 and 8. These waves consist of earths that can remove enchantments from the trench tank and kill him, and this will quite often fail the run if the warden dies. Your job here is to simply spike wave 4 once it spawns and settled on the emo. Once wave 4 is dead, run with the other mesmers to the spot for spiking a cave ball and help with the cleanup of any straggler mobs. This will enable the seeder to put his EOE for the spike. After it is clear, wait for wave 8 to spawn and spike it. Cole will then pop his Tengus and you should stand with him to catch waves 11 and 12. On these groups, your first skill is Mistrust on the mines in wave 11 and Waters in wave 12. You should also precast your Arcane Echo for your E-Surge on wave 11 and spike with 2 E-Surges, a Natural Signet and Westeros Demise. After these 2 waves are dead, turn around and get ready for the spike of the trench tank's ball on the corner in front of the EOE. Again, be careful to avoid early spike by waiting for the trench tank to DC into the ball. Once the ball is dead, run with the caller to the Darkness's spawn point to get ready for the spike of initial group of Tormentors, who will kill the lowly Order Whispers that will always fail to deal with them. On the way to the Darkness's spawn, you might want to go in range of Emo and Cedar, who are coming from the rift, in order for them to E to you and get in range to start bonding and getting prepared for the initial spike of Tormentors. Pre-select one of the mines and wait for the main tank to jump in. Your first skill on the spike is Mistrust, followed by E-Surge and a Natural Signet. After this is done, Trench Tank will have taken the quest reward from the voice at the beginning of Gloom, and this will spawn the Greater Darkness, one of the 4 Lords of Anguish leading Malix's forces in the Gloom, and 2 other Darknesses. You should equip your low energy set for the first 2 waves of Darknesses to reduce the chance of diversion being cast on you, which will block one of your skills and can mess up the Earth Spike. The reason for this is to fool Darkness's AI, who will think that there is no point in putting diversion on low energy foes. And once this first wave is dead, 5 more Darknesses will spawn. Important point on Darkness's Spike is that you should be only dealing even damage on Darknesses. This means that your main spiking skills on the first 2 waves are E-Surge and Mistrust. Once the second wave of Darknesses die, each of Darknesses will pop 5 Earth Babies, making a total of 25. For this spike, you want to switch to your high energy set to give yourself plus 30 energy to kill Earths as quickly as possible. You should Arcane Echo your E-Surge on the second wave of Darknesses to ensure that you have 2 E-Surges for the Earth Spike, because if you use it on first wave, then it will quite often will not be recharged in time for the Earth Spike. So this is Gloom finished. We have saved the Order of Whispers and get a cookie. We now face the grueling run to the Foundry, the most useless part of the whole run. We can, however, wave goodbye to the Shadow Army again, who have set up a camp on the left side of us. The only useful thing they do is to kill our Anchu after one of the tanks pulls the Shadow Army on them. And the reason why we want to kill Anchu here is before Foundry is because TK will need to pop a Ghastly Stone in room 2. Finally, after a lot of huffing and puffing, we arrive at the Foundry of Failed Creations, our last area. It consists of 5 rooms, with the final room aptly called the Big Room, because it is the largest and contains the Fury Group. Please ensure that you take the first quest at the NPC outside of Foundry, because you will be acting as a backup for spawning the Fury Group in the final room in case any of the snakes die, provided of course that General remains alive. First room is easiest. All you need to do is wait for the Marganites to spawn, and once the tank jump in, you spike the ball. You should pre-select the Dabby and spike with the Mistrust as your first skill, followed by E-Surge and a Natural Signet. Once Marganites are dead, there will be an additional pop of 2 Rages and 2 Despairs. Your job here is to mistrust the Despairs and spike them as quickly as possible to avoid them casting Chillblains on the team. Second room will contain a group of Marganites and Terrorwebs in the initial pop. Your job here is to put Backfire on the Key and Empathy on each of Rund and Vu to kill them quicker. Unless of course the ball is super tight and for example Key and Rund are standing right in the middle of the ball, in which case they will die on the spike. Once this initial group is dead, another group of 2 Dream Riders and 3 Terrorwebs will spawn. You need to focus on the Dream Riders and to cast Mistrust as much as possible on them to avoid them casting Mirror of Disenchantment on the team, which will remove the prod bond from the entire team and may wipe the team. If TK is still suffering from summoning sickness, then the MLK will be the one to pop Ghastly Stone in this room. Once the second spawn is dead, you move into third room. The third room will involve spiking 2 balls. To the left, one of the tanks will be balling the group of 3 Terrorwebs and 1 Dream Rider, while the second tank will be doing the big ball on the north side of the room. You will be responsible for killing the Dream Rider, and your job here is to spike the Terrorwebs. After the first ball is dead, turn around and spike the second ball. This is a dangerous spike and you should always listen to your teammates here and avoid spiking too early. Once the ball is dead, turn around and run into room 4. In this next room, we use a tactic which is called a push, where the entire team runs to the further gate and spikes the first group of Terrorwebs and Key while running. Ideally, the group spawns far enough to avoid aggro from the team, but if it is an aggro, then the team moves and spikes. You should cast Backfire on the Key if he is not in the ball. After this group is dead, there will be a spawn of Dementias, and you should Arcane Echo your E-Search to make sure that the spike is clean. Spike with your 2 E-Surges and a Natural Signet. Third wave will have some Despairs, and you should pre-select and ping a Despair. In this way, the other Mesmers can select a different Despair. Your first skill on this wave is Mistrust, followed by E-Surge and a Natural Signet. Final fourth wave will have 1 Dream Rider, 1 Despair, 1 Terrorweb, 1 Key, and some Fury Titans. Tank will ball this group, and you should not aggro too early before Despair is settled to avoid Chillblains being cast on the team. Once the ball is ready, cast Mistrust on the Despair and spike the ball in the usual way, while IAU is the only one that concentrates on the Dream Rider. Clean up any big Fury Titans after the rest of the ball is dead, which will open the gate to the final 5th room of Foundry. In this room, your main job is to call for the 3rd snake, which is similar to calling for the griffins in the Fisher Woe. In order to do this correctly, hug the right wall and run through once the trench tank pulls all of the mobs out of your way to get in position in direct line sight of the snake. If your health is low, this is where you use your high health set, which will be useful to avoid dying from Enduring Torment, which deals minus 10 health every second you are moving. Important point here is that you do not take this quest from Techless, the NPC directly in front of you in the final room, because you will be the backup in case any of the snakes die, as mentioned earlier. If the team encounters issues and the snake dies, then you should hug the wall again and run back to the first NPC in the same way as you came to take the quest reward and spawn the Fury group. If this happens, make sure you wait for the snakes to leave the party window before taking the next quest. Get in position to have the third snake in your direct line sight and avoid standing in a position that can get the snake stuck on one of the pillars. If the snakes get stuck due to unlucky spawn, wiggle around and move side to side while continuing to ping, and the snake will get itself unstuck. Then run along the wall to the main team and the seeder will take over the ping from here. You will then spy the Beast of Arc group and you should cast your Arcane Echo on the last wave of Dementias, which will be enough for you to have 2 E-Surges for the Fury Spike, which is quite important. Mistress and Rangers to help to kill them quicker, and then Spike with your E-Surge and Natural Signet and Westeros Demise to finish remaining mobs. Once the Beast of Arc group is dead, Seeder will take the quest reward from the general to spawn the Fury group. If there were issues with snakes dying and you are backup for the quest reward, then you will need to do that instead. For a clean Fury Spike, stand in the casting range and then get ready to spike with your 2 E-Surges, a Natural Signet and Mistrust. Important point here is that this is another dangerous spike and you must listen to your teammates. Please ensure that you do not stand on the other Mesmers to avoid interruptions during the spike. If any of the Mesmers die, you need to be ready to scroll them as soon as possible. If the keys remain alive, then once all of the Dream Riders are dead, place your backfire on one of the keys and call it to ensure that the other Mesmers concentrate on the same target. Well, that's it, folks. Thanks for watching, and I hope this guide proves useful on your runs. All the best, and always yours, Darkness Behind.